get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Jim Jacobs of FocusInsite.com, and that is INSITE.com. And Jim, before I formally introduce you, I always want to point out other episodes people should check out of the podcast. And you're an EO, and you're always learning. I've had some amazing people from EO on my podcast. Robert Hartline grew his two companies, actually a software company, and actually grew a chain of cell phone stores to over $100 million and sold it, and just a pretty amazing story. And so he did 2 episodes and really talks about productivity. And I'm not sure how he gets accomplished what he gets accomplished. I had EO member Adi Clevitt, she has a great podcast too, check it out, but she does SOPs for companies. She's an easy button for a company to produce SOPs so they could do things standardized and train their staff and make their business more saleable and all of that fun stuff. So check her out. Check that episode out. We geeked out, Jim, on our favorite productivity tools and software. So I still re-listen to that one, that and many more. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships and partnerships. And how do we do that? We actually help you run your podcast. We are an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the accountability, the strategy, and the full execution and production. So we call ourselves the kind of the magic elves that work in the background and make things look easy for the host, but they can sit back, relax, have the conversation, and run their company. So, for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, you can go to rise25.com to learn more. And I'm excited to introduce Jim Jacobs. He's founder of FocusInsite.com. And they're a nationwide leader in qualitative recruitment. And they've served companies like Adobe, Tesla, Google, Microsoft, Salesforce. I can go on and on with the companies they served. He's, has some amazing stories because he's talking and their company's talking directly to the consumer, right? So that's what consumer insights are. And they help these companies make big decisions, not off of guesswork, but actually coming from the consumer. So check them out. He started the business with a broken arm, $20 bill, and he made the Inc. 5000, placed 6th on the Philadelphia Business Journal, soaring 76 in terms of growth rate. He's multi-talented. If you're watching the video, you can see in the background, there's this picture, and he's also a hockey coach, and he coached Malvern Prep to a state championship for the first time in 17 years. And as I mentioned, he's also a member of EO Entrepreneurs Organization, attended Harvard and Wharton School of Business for the executive education. Jim, thanks for joining me.
No, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be on.
So let's start with, I described a little bit about Focus Insight, but tell people more about exactly what Focus Insight does.
No problem. So Focus Insight, what the heck is Focus Insight? What do? We are the nationwide leader in qualitative market research recruitment. So what the hell does that mean in English? Okay. So, Fortune 500 companies, not only Fortune 500, companies of all sizes, they have huge decisions to make on how they market their product or service. And the key to that is getting what people really think about their product, right? Interviewing people who use their product or who don't use their product. Why do you like it? What don't you like about it, right? So all those opinions, that information is extremely, extremely valuable to companies. So companies have, had one idea for some sort of marketing campaign and have changed it, done a 180 based on people's feedback. And so that happens all the time. And that's what we do is you supply the project, we supply the people. So, companies or market research firms who need people to participate in studies, that's what we do.
We're going to get into that a little bit. And people can go to your website and I don't know, do you have a lot of people joining the database? Because people can actually make money from doing this, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's always fun for all my my men's league hockey buddies and golf buddies. It's like, the alcoholic beverages study, right? They get in, they get paid $150 to have drinks, right? So,
And this is
but
online
no,
focus group.
online. So this is absolutely a I mean, there's one you see on elections. We do on everyday essentials. So yeah, for sure. So there's always people who need different opinions on, or who will pay you for your opinions on various different products out there. Like you see, like virtual reality. That's a neat one that we did. We did that years ago, where we did a big study for Oculus Go, where we shipped out free headsets for Oculus Go.
Sign me up. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then so the people got, like, I guess $200, and they got a free headset, and the end client on that one was Facebook, and they were using that data to say, hey, should we acquire the Oculus Go? Then 6 months later, I walk into Best Buy Christmas shopping, and all of a sudden I see Oculus Go by Facebook. So it's pretty neat. Like, we did the whole study behind that. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously companies can contact you if they want to get consumer insights, but consumers can go on your website too and possibly get opportunities as well.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. You just go in and sign up for our database, and then when you qualify for a study, we'll send out a link on email, and you fill it out. And if you qualify, that's what we do. We'll get you in, we'll get you scheduled, and there you go, right there. Join the panel. You got it.
Awesome. Love it. Let's talk about, go back
Let's
to
get you in something, Jeremy. Come on, we'll get you in something with that
I'm going to.
biochemistry.
Are you kidding? Like, I would have been all over the Oculus. I bought one. I could have got one for free and been in the study. Come on. Like, I'm going to check all those out. I'm not a big alcohol drinker, so I'm not like a good fit for that one, but I'll check the other ones out. And I'm going to spread the word on that. You want to make some extra cash? Go ahead.
There you go.
You broke your arm. So what happened?
Oh my God. I was, coaching hockey is a passion of mine. And I coached all different levels, from the learn to play 4 or 5 year olds up to, 18 and even, some college. So I've coached all levels. I'm certified for all levels. I'm coaching little guys. Kid comes from behind me. I fly in the air, break my arm, have to get surgery, and I can't drive for 6 weeks. So my former business I was a commercial real estate broker, and you're all the time, you're at different properties, right? So you're
driving all over the place.
Driving all over the place, and I couldn't leave the couch, right? Because I was in a sling and in a cast and whatnot after the surgery. So a friend of mine had asked me if I wanted to be in a focus group on Facebook. They had a company doing this, and I was a member of Entrepreneurs Organization with them, and that was how it started. I ended up getting in that group, and I said, "Wow, this is probably something I could start as a side hustle while while the real estate market's depressed, and I was chasing some commissions that I was suing for." And little did I know, this met a few criteria that I liked, which was, had a recurring revenue stream, essentially. I mean, it's a project-based business, but once you acquire a client, you will do multiple projects with the client, as opposed to real estate, where it's a one-off type of sale. So it wasn't an overnight thing, but it took a while. But I did see a huge potential in this, and that's how I started Focus Insite.
Talk about taking it from a side hustle to an actual business, because you start off with the mindset of, this is just a side hustle. I just want to make some extra cash. And talk about just kind of evolution of turning that into an actual business.
Yeah, sure. So it was wild. So it was just for some extra cash. And I had done a pretty big real estate deal, and the buyer, and commercial real estate can be very cutthroat. So the buyer and seller got together the day before we were supposed to settle, and they did settlement without me. So I had a pretty sizable fee, and it took, because it was a transaction that took over 2 years to conduct. By the time you had environmental testing, and there was a lot of factors to it, a very complex transaction. And at the end, they both decided, well, we're going to remove him from the picture, and the seller can make more money, and the buyer can get it for a cheaper price. So get rid of the broker who put the whole thing together and kept the whole thing together. So what happens is you don't get paid, and then I had to pay an attorney up front in order to chase money that I should have gotten. And then at the end of the day, when you do get it, it takes you a year or 18 months later, and you're paying 4 or 5 grand to the attorney, and then you're settling for 50 cents on the dollar if you're lucky. Usually a lot less than that, 30, 40 cents. And so I was doing that. And so I was doing the side hustle to pay the attorney, right? Just to pay attorney fees. And I was like, oh, this is kind of neat on the side. And then one thing became another, And then they called me, and they had a huge study on macular degeneration, which I didn't even know what it was. But I was able to look it up. And the piece of equipment that they were testing was like a $3 million piece of equipment. And they wanted that. And they needed a very specific target that no other company could get. And they needed ophthalmologists, right? But they wanted some who had fellowships and whatnot. So lucky for me, one of the guys who I played hockey with, he had just graduated ophthalmology school. So I had gotten a list of all the recent grads, fellows, and things like that. So we were able to fill a study that no one else was able to fill. And then they ordered a whole second round. They were so happy of it. I'm so happy about it. And then I got the check right away in 2 weeks. So I said, wow, you know what I mean? Like, why am I chasing money over here when I can get paid right away here? And my phone kept ringing off the hook for us to recruit people. And I said, you know what? This is a business I think I could scale. So that was when I said, you know what? I know it sounds nuts, but I'm going to go full in here and make this happen. And it's been a great run ever since.
What was another client that you remember, not that I've made it, but that you remember you were especially proud of?
Oh, well, you know what? It was probably the biggest one was Pinterest when we signed Pinterest, because we got on the preferred vendor list, which was very extensive. And that was neat, right? Because that's an app that everyone has on their phone, everyone knows. And now we have a bunch of those. But it's really neat once you start landing those Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, internet, and you're like, wow, So because this went from an idea to now we have extensive vendor paperwork and lawyers filling us out. So there's a whole bunch of them, but we've done stuff for the major cosmetics. I mean, we could walk through your office or through your house and I can see product. Oh yeah, we've done studies for this. Yeah, we worked on that. So that's pretty neat. But yeah, I think the first big one was Pinterest. Once we were able to start working with them, that was really neat.
Jim, you started with one service and your services have evolved a bit. Can you talk about just a little bit of the evolution of the services from when you first started till now? Because you offer several different things.
Yeah, well, I mean, our bread and butter is qualitative recruitment, right? Which all that means is, you need 50 people who like to dine at Chili's or whatever it is. Like we'll find you those people. And I mean, I'm making it super simple on the consumer side, but some of them are very technical. Like we've done, the big thing right now is ChatGPT. Well, the past few years, that's all we've gotten is, hey, we need to speak with data scientists. We need to speak with people about machine learning, right? So that was a very specific discipline that we could get that people had a hard time getting to recruit for those panels, and now you see all the AI coming out. And we were kind of recruiting for a lot of different AI studies years ago, right? So qualitative recruitment is still our bread and butter, but a lot of our bigger clients want to come to us for the whole kit and caboodle. So we offer transcription, translation, some of those things, but 95% of our business is the qualitative recruitment for sure.
I did a series on, because I really tend to geek out on direct response marketing and copywriting. And so I had a stint of some of the top copywriters, direct response marketers, and they say the way they produce amazing content or in copy is asking the customer. And, putting those insights in the customer's words into the copy, right? And that's basically, you're getting these direct insights from the consumer. I'd love to know one of these market research studies and what you found that was interesting. I know one of them we were chatting out before we hit record was Apple. So can you talk about that one?
Well, that was one. And we've done a few different things with the iPhones and whatnot. And this is just a story that's been told to us. We didn't actually do this one, but when Apple was doing the iPod, okay, they didn't know what colors to make it, and they had different groups, and people were like yellow, really yellow, and everyone decided on yellow. And then when you left, you got to pick one of the many colors of iPod to keep as your gift for participating. So everyone picked white. So that's how they made the first iPod. White is the story that was told at the conference. I thought that was pretty neat. So
are some of those things baked into the study where it's like you're asking them, but then basically looking at what their actions are also?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, we've and that's one of the other things. We've moderated a few different studies where you're different drink delivery systems, and that's what's really neat is all the latest and greatest and newest inventions and different ways to do things. I mean, we would do studies about Uber all the time. Uber, right? Before it was kind of like a perfected service. What do you like? What don't you like? What, right? So it's all very neat. And it's really neat to see how what we do is shaped every day. Like, for example, we did a study on diabetes, right? And it was a special app for the phone and a special thing to check your blood sugar. And so we did that study. It was a big study. And then 2 years later, a friend of mine's a pharmaceutical rep, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's the coolest product, that I'm going to be repping." And he told me all about it. I said, "Yep." And I'm telling them about the product, and they're like, "I just went to training on this 2 days ago. And how do you know all about it?" I said, "Well, because we did the study." So
I love it. What were some of the key hires in the evolution, right? It starts off you on your couch making side cash, right? So what were some of the key hires that you had to make to grow the business?
Oh, wow. You know what? And if you ever read, you meet with a lot of EO guys, but it's all the people, right? It's people, strategy, execution, cash are the four pillars to scale any business. And number one is the people. My number two in command is Leanna Wood, and she was actually someone who I met through Upwork during the initial stages of the business, who had a little bit of a market research background, and was just me and her.
What
right?
were you hiring for at the time? What were you looking for?
An assistant.
Oh.
Okay. So, now, like, for example, last year we did business with 102 clients, right? So, but yeah, so I was looking for an assistant, and, I was really able to hone in on something. And this was pre-COVID, right? So, but there was a number of people who had young kids who had great job skills and college degrees, and they just wanted the flexibility to be able to work from home. So that's what we created before COVID made it prevalent. But we were on the cutting edge there of, how do we have a work from home company? I mean, I go into an office, but it's kind of like it's a shared office facility that John Ratliff owns and he's, big in this, he's part of scaling up with Vern Harnish, but another entrepreneur. But yeah, for sure. Leanna was absolutely one of our key hires. And she makes this place go every day. And then I got Christina Schwenke, who had a background in finance, with hedge funds in New York. So she was really able to help us scale the business accordingly and grow it. And then we just kept adding so many great people along the way.
You were also, I think you won something that for best workplace. So what do you do to instill culture, especially like in a remote setting?
Well, Leanna's a big part of that, right? She's very big into culture, and she does a great job leading the way. But we all do, right? So we want, we look at, if you're going to go to work every day, why can't it be enjoyable? Why can't you have fun with your coworkers, right? Like, why can't the workplace environment be somewhere where you want to be, right? And that's the whole way we've always treated it. Like we have once a week, 11:11 every Tuesday, an all hands call. And we try to put a little bit of fun in it at the end of the day. And yes, it's work. Yes, it's KPIs. Yes, it's measurements. But at the same point, it's also a good way for everyone to get together to talk about different things. And we try to, and that's the thing, is we try to really train our people, right? So you can come in and it's always people first, and we'll give you the skills. If you want, we'll train you for whatever we need, and we've been very successful doing that.
Are you allowed to? Are your staff allowed to participate in the studies also? No, they're not.
They're no.
Do you ever get people inquiring to work for you that have participated in the studies, or do they?
We've had people who have participated in studies who have come to work for us a year later or something, and they're like, "Oh my God, I've been in one of your studies, and a friend of mine told me about this incredible business, and I'd like to be a recruiter." And so, yeah, but once we have a pretty, you'll be terminated if you participate in a study if you work for us. That's not.
It's just because they know too much, or why? Why is that?
Well, yeah, correct.
Yeah,
it's just
they're just biased.
Right, correct. We want unbiased opinions. So
Got it.
Correct.
I would think that people doing the studies be like, "Oh, this is cool. Oh, this company. Oh, maybe I should work for them." But
we've had that. We have people reach out all the time about that.
You're big in education and big in personal development. You taught a seminar in college. And can you talk about the power of ask?
Yep. So it was actually from my friend Paul Alford. He owns or his company he's part of is Bloom Planners, which is a phenomenal company, great culture. And I've gotten a lot of the idea about culture from him. But they wanted a fellow entrepreneur to come in and speak. And it was really neat for the newspaper side of the business, or for the advertising side of the business, where they would sell advertising on college campuses. So I went and spoke, and he's like, "Hey, could you do a presentation?" I'm like, "Okay, well, like, on what?" He goes, "Something interesting." And he said, "But we want you, the question to be, what would you tell your 25-year-old self?" So I'm like, "Oh, wow." Right. Or what would you tell your 20-year-old self? So I kept it. So like that bugged me all weekend. I'm like, what would I tell myself? And ultimately what I came back to is about the power of ask, right? That's what I came up with. And it's like, if you see where you are now and you see where you started, I'm like, well, how did I get on this crazy path? Right. And, and it was always, well, because I asked this guy about an internship, and then I asked for this, and then I asked here, and then I asked this, and then I asked for that. Right. So when you go down all the asks, it's the whole power of ask. Like, if you don't ask, the answer is always no, right? I remember Pat Croce telling me that, right? So Pat Croce used to he was a trainer who became an owner of the Philadelphia 76ers. And I remember he just puts together the deal, part owner of the team. We go down, and all of a sudden, at the time, the logo's changed, it's black and everything. Like, I'm like, whoa, did you do any market research on this? And then he goes, nah, he goes, it was like, old Pasquale, my old man. He goes, if I asked him for the sneakers, he beat the crap out of me. So then the next time I just bought the sneakers, and he beat the crap out of me for buying the sneakers, but I still had the sneakers. So, so his whole point was just ask, ask, do it, figure it out. So that's the power of ask. Like, always be asking. Who can you ask? Hey, what can I do for you? Hey, Jeremy, I have a good introduction that might help you. Right? Things like that. And when you look over time and years, you see there's a huge compound effect of that.
Who do you consider some of your mentors throughout the years? When you speak of ask, I'm sure that you reached out to people for advice or help, or, who are some of those mentors throughout the years?
No, all the time. I mean, one of the big ones is, there's so many to list, but one of the big ones is, Michael Morris, who's a good friend of mine. I met him at St. Joe's, and he started a company, Transport International Pool, and sold GE back in the day. And so I talk to him once a week, twice a week. And he's an amazing person. So many through Entrepreneurs Organization who I know who have mentored me on different things. Paul Alford's one who's helped me through a lot of different things. Bob Simpson is my accountant. He's helped me through a lot. It's funny, I'm a hockey guy, so guys like Jeremy Roenick and Chris Therien and Jim Watson, who I have the utmost respect for, played pretty high levels in the NHL. I'm able to get those guys on the phone and ask them hockey advice. So,
How do you know? So Jeremy Roenick used to be on the Blackhawks at one point. I don't know what other teams he played for, but how
yeah,
do you know him?
that was kind of wild, right? You talk about the power of ask. That's a perfect example. It was during 2004. The NHL was locked out, and so all the players were looking to get into just had they would have like charity golf outings and hockey games so they keep fresh against each other because they couldn't play for a year because the owner said, hey, you guys make too much money, we're locking you out, and we're redoing the collective bargaining agreement. So all of a sudden in the paper, God honest truth, it comes in the paper, the Daily News saying, hey, Jeremy Roenick for the Philadelphia Flyers is having a charity golf outing or charity hockey golf outing in Arizona. He goes, if anyone wants to stay sharp on blades, and we played pretty high level hockey, so I had sent the article to my entire ice hockey team at the time, and one of the guys was like, I go, hey, does anyone want to go on this? This would be pretty neat to go to. And a friend of mine said, hey, I know him pretty well. We grew up playing with and against each other and personal friends, and then that's how the connection was made, and we went out there, and we've been friends ever since. So that was pretty cool. So he's helped me through some hockey stuff and whatnot.
Describe Jim for people who can't see. Maybe they're listening, but there's a picture behind you. Describe that scene and what's in there.
That's a really neat scene. I have video of it and everything. It's great. So I played hockey at Malvern Prep, and it was very much a defining experience because you go from not being from getting cut to making the team to going through the JV to being on the varsity, and now all of a sudden you're winning a Flyers Cup and you're winning a AAA state championship, and there's nothing like it. We're the first state champions in the history of the school. Well, fast forward, that's in 1990, and so I come back. They needed a middle school coach 8 years ago. I can't believe I've been doing this for 8 years, but they needed a middle school coach, and just had a vision and saw an opportunity to build the middle school team and get our high school back to the championship level. And
no
the
pressure.
team had not won. The team had not won for 17 years, right? So it had gone through a huge drought. So it was a lot of recruiting and selling guys on the vision and getting guys to say, hey, look, I know the team's struggling now, but you got to look a few years down the road what this thing is going to be. And I remember telling one of my guys, Matty Harris, I said, Matty, you're going to be looking up in the stands. These stands are going to be packed, and you're going to be holding that cup over your head. I go, if you come here, right? God, honest truth. And 3 years later, that's exactly what he was doing. It was unbelievable. I got chills right now thinking about that. But that game went into overtime, and like I said, we hadn't won in 17 years. And my son ends up scoring the game-winning goal in overtime, wearing my jersey number, and the whole place went nuts. And it was all over social media. I mean, TSN in Canada had it on their social media page. I mean, every huge hockey channel on Instagram, it just blew up. There was millions of views. It was really an unbelievable story, and it all started with a vision, and not only the vision, but really having that vision fresh in your head and executing every day, day upon day, month upon month, and year after year. And then, we won it back to back. So it was really neat.
It's amazing. The video on your phone. What is it of? Like, how did you get it, or did someone send you the video? What is it? What's the video of?
Just of the goal?
It's of the goal.
Of the goal. Oh, of that goal. Yeah. So someone shot that, and yeah, it was unbelievable.
Amazing.
So that's The social media manager for the team, Gracie at the time, she shot it and uploaded it and sent it to every hockey page, who reblasted it all over the place. It was really wild how big of a story that became in 24 hours.
Jim, talk about what you brought from your hockey career and coaching into the business. Because I mean, sounds like all of the similar things. You had to give the vision, sell the vision, execute, practice. What did you bring from hockey to your business?
It is so similar. It is unbelievable. Okay. So, I deal with 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds in high school, and then some of the younger guys in middle school, all guys. And then all of a sudden when I'm dealing at work, it's all females, right? So, but they're all people, and it's all the same thing, right? You have to get people to see a vision that doesn't exist. You have to get people to believe something that is not there. Like, if I never told Leanna, right? Like, hey, Leanna, this is gonna be really neat. It's gonna be me and you working 50 hours a week to 60 hours a week forever, right? Like,
don't sell that vision.
Right. Like, what the hell is exciting about that? And what the hell is exciting was, hey, you're going to come over here and play hockey, and we're going to try to win a few more games next year. Like, what's exciting about that, right? So I'm like, no, we're going to be the leader in this qualitative space in market research. We're going to be one of the top companies in the industry. And you know what? We took a lot of big swings, and we struck out a lot. Okay, but you know what? Like, we just hit the Inc. 5000 last year, top 25%, like you said. And hockey, that was very difficult. There was lots of scars and pain along the way, and tough moments, tough conversations with kids, tougher conversations with parents, irate parents. But you know what? They all have championship rings now. And we hit the Inc. 5000, and when we're doing projects with some of the biggest consumer product companies in the world, and tech companies in the world, that was kind of our Stanley Cup. So they go absolutely hand in hand. But number one, it's, I think that the biggest job of the entrepreneur is to really help sell the vision, and then not only sell it, but work with the team to drive it every single day. And, you got to be willing to roll your sleeves up and get dirty, because if you're like, no one's going to lead if you're not willing to do these things.
I'm curious, Jim, what you would say your superpower is. When I listen to you, you seem to be really good at the visual, like creating a visual for someone. You're painting the picture for that vision. You're not just sharing the vision, but you really, with that person, you paint the picture so they can see it. Imagine the people in the stands, imagine holding up that cup, even with the ads, imagine our products. We're watching the Super Bowl and we see a Super Bowl commercial, and the product that we helped, do the research for is on there, right? What would you say your superpower is in business?
Yeah, developing people, right? Like, I believe very much in the equation 1 + 1 = 3. Okay. So that means if you come in, we're going to leave you a lot better than we found you. We have people who can come into our company as an entry-level recruiter and be promoted to a assistant project manager, or director within a short period of time, right? It's really on them, and it's kind of one of the things I say with hockey, right? We supply the opportunity, you supply the rest, right? So that's what I think that the key job of any coach or entrepreneur is number one, is your people, right? Is develop your people, show your people the way. You can't do it for them, right? But you need people who are driven, and to show them the vision and show them, I know this is where you are now, but this is where you can be, and this is where we can be together if we accomplish this, right? So, and to the credit of a lot of the guys I've coached, they've achieved that success. That picture is that moment. Everyone's like, oh, to many people, it's just a kind of guy jumping in the stands, right? But to me, that's hours upon hours of practices and work and vision and whatnot. And like those jerseys, the original jerseys that came out were unwearable, so we had to order last minute jersey, right? Like, it's like, and everyone's like, oh my God, they have the best jerseys in the league. Like, and no one has idea, right? It's like the duck where it's paddling super quick under, and it's all smooth, but you don't see everything that's happening underneath. And that's the way life and business is, so everything goes super awry and crazy. But no, by far, Jeremy, number one, developing people and making that 1 + 1 = 3, meaning when you get the people, the value of the whole is a lot more than the sum of the parts.
What, Jim, should others be doing to help develop their leaders? What have you found kind of is baked into your process, or how you train, or what do you do that other people should be doing to help develop leaders?
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of wild. Through EO, I met Chris Ronzio. Chris Ronzio owns a company called Trainual. So Trainual is phenomenal. So we have everyone, we record different modules, different learnings, and we constantly train people through Trainual. And, it's like the old saying, like, what if we train them and they leave? It's like, what if we don't and they stay? Right. So, so we really try to have, different weekly trainings and try to train people on different facets of the industry and, get them, because a lot of them are, actually everyone is pretty much new to market research. So we train them within the industry. And, some of these people, some of the women have been out of the workforce for a little bit. Maybe they had some kids and they haven't worked in a few years and they want to get back in, or they want to start as a part-time recruiter. So, honestly, if you're not training your people to be better, then, I think you're doing yourself a huge disservice as an entrepreneur, because what's really neat is, like, there was 4 sales calls today. Okay. And I had hurt my back and I wasn't on any of them. But I
wish I knew a good chiropractor for you, Jim. Sorry.
I knew one right around the corner. Thank goodness. That's where I spent all morning. But having awesome people and developing them into awesome people is super, super. It's the most rewarding thing about the business, and more rewarding than any financial statement or any sales figure.
Jim, I have one last question. Before I ask it, I just want to point people to focusinsight.com to check out more. That's focus and then INSITE.com to learn more about the business. Whether you are a business who wants to get consumer insights, or you want to make some side cash and actually see what other opportunities you can enter in their database. My last question, Jim, is I know you are a heavy learner, personal development. I'd love to know some of your favorite books or resources that you love, that you recommend people check out.
YouTube, anything by Jim Rohn. I think he's phenomenal. God, my whole Audible, but Brian Tracy, I love Brian Tracy type of stuff. And God, Atomic Habits is a great one. Like there's so many. And I have one pep talk. I like to listen to that on my morning run in the morning.
What is that?
It's an app where to just curate motivational content.
Oh, really?
For free but that you can get for free on YouTube and whatnot. But not only that, but just books are like, I think Elon Musk, apparently when he grew up in South Africa, he read his whole library. Like he read every book in the library, in that library that was that he grew up in, or something, or in the school, or like not in the library, but like the school, he had written every book. So, people had problems before you, and they've had bigger problems, and books are just the way to, there's nothing I love better than getting away and just reading. So I'm a content consummate. Like I love listening to audibles and podcasts.
What are some of your favorite podcasts or Audible? I don't know if you have your phone handy, but I'd love to hear some of your favorite podcasts and Audible books too.
Well, my favorite by far is Rise 25 by Jeremy White. That is number one.
Now it is. And your favorite episode is your own when it goes live.
There you go. I like Andy Frisella. Noah Kagan's really, really neat. So Noah Kagan presents. Andy Frisella is phenomenal. There's one called Deal Makers, which is really neat, where you speak with actual entrepreneurs. I'm a hockey guy, so Spittin' Chicklets is a great one, just to hear from some of the most elite athletes in the world and these crazy stories on how they got to where they got to. Alex Hormozy is a guy who I really, really like. He's kind of newer, past couple of years into the social media content. He owns
like $100 million offers. I forgot that's what his book is called.
I have a book over there, but you can tell he's a guy who did it. You know what I mean? Like he's done all this, because he can tell you very specifically, in the and the credit card fee machine went down, so we had to do it this way. And like, I know all those stories because we've done all those crazy stories when things have happened. So yeah, those are ones I really like, and there's a few I don't like. I think here I'm like, I'm not going to recommend them because they're kind of their whole thing is being a coach or something. Like, they haven't done it right. So that
you want people who have been in the trenches, who have done it or are doing it. What about from Audible? Any favorite Audible books?
Oh, sure, Audible. Mike, I think I have a couple hundred here. So I'm looking them up right now. Pink Goldfish is a good one. Play Bigger, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Grit by Angela Duckworth. Her husband Jason is a member of the Philadelphia chapter, which is wild. The Magic of Thinking Big, The Power of Ambition by Jim Rohn. Tell Me More About That by my friend Rob Volpe. The Thank You Room by Serenity Bowen is a great book about her dealing with cancer, and she's a friend and absolutely phenomenal. Founder's Mentality. There's so many. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Wow,
that's one of my favorites.
That's a great one, isn't it? Here's one of my absolute favorites, and it's not even a real book. It's a Kindle book. How to Win at the Sport of Business by Mark Cuban. But to get inside his head is unbelievable. And I've had a chance to. I was on a Zoom call with him, and just hearing how he approaches every day is unbelievable, man. The guy's great. So, I love it. There's some and also one that I suggest to all the staff. The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. Right. I quote that a lot. It's a really neat book. I highly suggest it. It's a book about how things have changed, but based on real things that happened in history. It's a great book, and you'll read it in a couple hours. But it's, like I always say, and it's a quote from the book: you don't always have to make the right decision, but make the decision and make it right. So that's how we've grown. I'm like, hey, don't stop fretting about making the right decision. Make a decision, and if it's wrong, we make it right. And we've had clients, we did this and it was the wrong thing, but we fixed it, or you know what I mean. And that's one of our core philosophies for sure.
Make it right. Jim, I want to be the first one to thank you. Thank you so much. Everyone check out focusinsight.com, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Left circle shot. It's coming down. Score! Friars, AAA champions.
Jimmy Jacobs scored 3 against Sally's, and he is the man tonight.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like $100 grand.